Hello, today I'm going to be talking about relapsing after a long NoFap streak. So for about 10 years, I personally went on NoFap streaks, and some would be longer than others. I think when I started, it would often be like 2 or 3 days. Then I kind of worked it up to 7 days, and then I was doing like 14 days, then always relapsing because I believed in some flatline bullshit. And then I'd always relapse after like 30 days, and I'd just kind of keep on hitting these different milestones. Eventually got to like 60 days, then 90 days. And man, it's kind of crazy to look back on all of this stuff, because I just think the whole world of NoFap is complete, utter bullshit. I just don't believe in any of the stuff I used to believe in. And my most popular video on YouTube right now is still a video which is called 90-Day NoFap Timeline. I think it's got like 35,000 views or something. And I've kept that on there just to kind of show, like, look, I was once in that world. Like, I really did once believe in all of that stuff. I've done NoFap, and I can tell you from the other side, no longer doing any streaks, that the whole NoFap thing is bullshit. Honestly, it's so far away from what really matters, which is just moment by moment making rational choices. If you're keeping a streak, then, like, to me, that's a big problem. Like, that's a huge red flag. That's like, you have got a compulsive desire. Like, you've got a problem in your life. If you're keeping a streak, you're right in a porn addiction. And I know that might be hard to hear right now, and it was for me, because I heard the same thing like over 2 years ago now, when I first had a conversation with Mary Paulus. I had actually sort of shared on my own podcast, like, I think I deleted those episodes now because they were just like so outdated, and I was just talking so much nonsense about like no-fappy sort of stuff. But before Mary Paulus, my mentor, I had these podcasts up, and I'd talk about relapsing, I'd talk about my different streaks, and I'd be very open and just share whatever. And then Mary came along. She came into my life as a podcast guest, and she was like, Tom, like, you relapsed a few weeks ago, like, what makes you think you're free of this porn addiction? And like, sharing all this advice, like, you're some like master on this topic. And I was like, well, I don't know, like, you know, let's do some training then. I can't remember exactly how things went down, but it was something like that. So she trains me on the Beyond Compulsion methods, and my mind was a bit blown. I still had loads of beliefs that were so like tied into the NoFap and semen retention worlds, and so I kind of dismissed quite a bit, and I'd honestly be like arguing with Mary back and forth, just having a load of junky thoughts and unanswerable questions, like, no, you can't be right, like, what about all these experts, like, what about these neuroscientists? And it's like, oh man, it's crazy to look back on all of that. So we go back and forth, I learn her methods, and I've really stuck to it basically, and that's kind of been the crux of what's helped me transform my life personally, is just sticking to this one method, and sort of getting to a place now where I look back on other stuff and I'm like, what the hell, like, what was I doing, like, why did I listen to these random people on the internet? But there we are, we all start somewhere, don't we? So I had a conversation last week with a guy who just relapsed after being on a long NoFap streak. It was a discovery call where we were just checking in, see how he was getting on, see if he was interested in learning more about the Beyond Compulsion method. Give him a call, and he's a young guy, and he was deep in that NoFap world, and some of the things he was saying just really resonated to how I used to feel about the whole problem. And he was kind of like, well, look, I don't want to like keep on dwelling on this problem any longer, you know, I want to just like get out of this, you know, I'm sick of it. Didn't want to keep thinking about like the consequences of it. But I've got to admit, that's exactly like what I would do in the past as well. Like, I remember very vividly, I think I've spoke about this before, like, I would relapse and I'd just go like into this self-compassion mode. And I remember, like, honestly making pasta, like a massive bowl of pasta with tomato sauce, cheese, olives and chicken, and I'd put it in this massive bowl, and I remember sitting down on the sofa with these candles and the pasta and eating it and like feeling sorry for myself for like relapsing. I was like, oh, it's okay, like, you know, it's all gonna be all right, Tom, and like have all this self-compassion. I wouldn't face the reality of it. I wouldn't really deal with the consequences. I wouldn't accept how bad a problem it really was in my life. I'd just be like, oh, you know, go on another streak now. And I'd try and like downplay and minimize how bad it was. And nowadays, like, my approach is kind of the opposite of what it once was. Like, if anything, I want my clients to acknowledge how bad a problem it is, because, you know, the Beyond Compulsion method does take a little bit of time to learn and really understand, and and then apply most importantly. And what I've seen is a few clients, let's say they join the program and they're like 2 weeks into using the method or something. If they choose to engage due to script resistance, which I've seen happen, then what they're immediately going to do is try be like, oh, you know, this is fine, like this is okay, and so try and minimize the consequences. But what I would want to do is be like, look, mate, this is a serious problem. Like, it's good you feel shit right now. Like, that isn't actually a problem. Like, we've got to face this head on and really directly deal with it. Like, there's nothing wrong with people for relapsing. Like, when you really get this problem inside and out, you have like no shame around it at all, and there's no like judgment at all either, because what you can see is just there's certain variables and certain inputs, and you apply certain things, you're going to get certain results. Like, that's all it really comes down to. So if someone's not applying certain inputs, then we just need to work on that, and we can help people transform their neural pathways. Like, and that's so cool. But what happens is the addictive part of the mind comes in, tries to make people feel either one or two ways. One, there's just like a shit ton of shame and unproductive thinking, and it's all just about like, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm screwed, this is it now for the rest of my life, I can never change, like this is just because this is who I am, and all these junky thoughts, which is bullshit, but it's to be expected, because if you relapse, and that's where the addictive part of the mind goes, it just gives a shit ton of power to the addictive part of the mind. It's how addiction works. Or the other way it'll go is, oh, this isn't that bad, like this is fine, like once, you know, isn't the end of the world, other people do it, and try and deny the reality of addiction. So either kind of makes it all about like your ego and like who you are, when that isn't productive at all, and that's just all nonsense as well, or it'll try to deny that it's even a problem. And this is like where I was stuck. It was kind of in either one of those two places, like denying the reality or trying to have all this self-compassion and like downplay the consequences. What I advise people doing if you relapse, I mean, if you're on a NoFap streak, just stop doing NoFap streaks and learn something completely different first of all, because NoFap's not going to get you absolutely anywhere. But if you have relapsed and you felt like you were doing quite well for a while, what I would say is you want to look at it a little bit more scientifically, understanding, look, there's nothing wrong with me for relapsing. Like, it's not about who I am. It's not about my identity. It's not about my ego. It's not that I'm inherently flawed and, I'm set to be a porn addict for the rest of my life. That's complete nonsense. It isn't about that at all. And I know there can be a lot of shame here. But simultaneously, you don't want to then like downplay it and be like, oh, the consequences aren't that bad. Like, you're the one who pays the consequences, no one else. So really, really document that reality. Actually look at this problem for what it is. And like, for me, looking back, I can see I was in so much denial about this problem, like just minimizing it and being like, I'm not addicted to porn, like it's just a bad habit, like this is fine, like I do it less than most people, so it's all right. But there were very, very severe consequences in my life, like so much shame, feeling so alone, feeling so disconnected from people, feeling so stuck in my head, objectifying women, and it just being on my mind all the time, like the whole thing of removing the triggers and having all these weird conditions in my life and being so obsessed with like self-improvement and scared of urges, like the whole thing is an absolute mess, like it honestly is. And I just want to get across, like if you're relapsing, you got to look at it for what it is and see the consequences, because the addicted part of the mind, the part of your mind that wants to keep you stuck in this, wants you to downplay the consequences. It wants you to seem like it's all right with you, but really deep down, when you like get into your feelings on this shit and you like out your head a bit, you go, fuck, like this problem is the biggest problem in my life. But you got to just acknowledge at the same time, there's nothing wrong with you and it is possible to change. You can change, like you literally can change your neural pathways and get out of this problem, but it does require some work and it does require some discomfort. It isn't easy. But if you're willing to make that your priority and actually get yourself out of this, I can tell you from the other side, the benefits are unbelievable. Like, you can just feel temporary discomfort and be all right with that. And then on the other side, you also get to have like real joy, like real like laughter and just like fun and like just gratitude, I guess, for just being alive and well, and like a peace of mind and clarity and focus, and you just get shit done in your life and no longer really worry about like dealing with urges or watching more NoFap videos or like how are you gonna be in 2 weeks' time or whatever, it's just like, all right, I'm good now, you know? So I just want to get all that across, because there's people out there doing NoFap streaks and they're just ruining their own mental health, and that's where I was for 10 years. And then you got people downplaying it, and that is going to work against you massively in the long run. And it took some very, very hard conversations with Mary Paulus, my own mentor, for me to get that. So hopefully I can kind of share the same. And then just know there's nothing wrong with you for having this problem. You just have addictive neural pathways right now at this point in time. And all you need to do is learn how to get into the desire and think it through in a rational way. Deal with desires moment by moment and do that repeatedly to change your own neural pathways. We can help with that, but really the starting place is learn whether this is a problem for you, because if it's not, then you probably shouldn't even be listening to this. Just crack on with your life. But if you think it could be a problem for you, then I would recommend taking the compulsion test and receiving a free score out of 100 to signal to you how much of a problem in your life this really is right now. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.